Right.
All right, we're rolling.
Do it.
We're rolling. Kulick, dude, what's up?
Not much. I'm 10 minutes late, so I felt bad, but here we are. We are here.
And here I was worried about holding you up.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. I was saying earlier, I'm so scattered because I've been very busy lately with producing uh a new song coming out, and I just released the song Colors, and I'm also producing a bunch of different other artists at the moment. So I'm all over, but trying to get it all done at once.
Well, yeah, you have to clone yourself. I mean, I guess your song Scatterbrain fits you well.
Today it does.
Well, dude, we talked. I think it was 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in October, and I feel like so much has changed. And there are some things that are still the same too. It's like, we're still kind of. I mean, we're out of a pandemic, but like, there's still like it's always kind of creeping around in the background. But much better than it was 2 years ago in 2020, because that's when it started. We talked. You had just released, or right prior to your release of your album, "Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood." I think I screwed it up last time trying to say it. But yeah, I mean, a lot has changed. So, I mean, let's get into it. You just released a newish song, "Colors." It's like a remake of an original one of yours. You put out a new album earlier this year, which, if the year ended right now, if the year ended today, I would have that album as like album of the year.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad. We never got to talk since I released it. So I appreciate that comment from you. Yeah, that's what could I comment on first? First of all, it's much different since then. I feel much more I'm slowly getting better at being social. It's still kind of difficult, but better than that time period. My life's much different. Um, but yeah, much different for sure. And then Colors, just released Colors. It was basically just a complete remake of the song from 2018 that I have called Colors, but I wanted to make it more like the genre that my album is in. Everyone I Know Will Die. It's the name of that album. So I wanted to redo that. And I've been wanting to redo Colors for a while, especially since it's the most like, people relate to that one the most. It's the most streamed, like whatever, take away the numbers. Like most people talk to me about that song. So I wanted to do another version. And once I got done the Everyone I Know Will Die album, I was like, it would be perfect to just make a hard rock version of this. And most people I know are working out to it anyway. So I was like, let's just make one that like powerlifters can probably use, you know? And I also love that genre, man. I mean, it's not exactly the Everyone I Know Will Die album genre. It's not alternative. It's way more like rock, but I love that uh, style of music. And I've never really released anything under Kulick like that. So that's why I wanted to do it.
That's cool. And I mean, I think the newest release, "Everyone I Know Will Die," is probably some of your most, I could be wrong, but some of your most honest material to date. I feel like there's a lot of self-reflecting, a lot of just kind of you putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true to say this is the most honest, because I do feel like I'm that honest with every record I've done. Like Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood was a divorce record. Like everyone can tell that. It's very easy. I'm just very reflective in that. Definitely honest in that. This one, I think I, when I was writing Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood, I was writing after the fact, kind of in reflection, whereas this one it's in the moment of what's going on in my life, what traumatic experiences are happening, and what I'm writing about, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And it was in the moment much more. But I would also say, being an artist, the more I keep writing, the better I get at being honest, but also making it be universal. You know,
Okay.
the longer I'm writing, I feel like I'm getting better at that. I really appreciate that you, that's the number one thing people say. And it's like the biggest compliment of like, oh, you were, you know, very self-reflective and honest. I'm like, yeah, don't you miss honesty in music? Like, I'm glad you, glad you enjoy that then.
Yeah, maybe that's what I meant too. Like you know, you mentioned you're in the moment. It's like where you are right now. Um, I mean, there's just a lot of songs. And I do want to get into my favorite song. I believe it's called "Don't Think About Me." I mean, I still get chills every time I hear that song. I listened to it 3 times on the way home from work tonight, and literally chills every time. And I think that song really relates to what I say, you being honest, because you know you mentioned the Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood being a divorce album, so that's not a secret, right?
Mhm.
And Don't Think About Me. That was such a I don't even know how to explain it. Maybe you can explain it for me, since it's your song.
Um, Don't Think About Me is a song that could have been the last song on Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood. You know, that was like that was the song that was written about the time period kind of Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood, but a year passed and it was kind of like, all right, where do I stand with this person now? Like, what would I say to them if we were on talking terms? And that ended up being like, I honestly just hope that you don't think about me much and that you're having a good life because I don't want any more. Like, I was done with the pain of it. I was done with feeling like shit about it. And I wanted to kind of put more closure on it for myself. And you know, when the that was technically my first breakup, was my divorce, so it was like I didn't know how to process it. And I think people who might not know how to process it, or even people who have been in relationships and are going through a breakup, there's like this phase or decision to either you're going to be friendly and be able to talk, or you're going to just completely forget about this person. So I was kind of like a play on that of like, you know, like, you're going to forget me. Like, I hope you forgot me because that was the point of this. If not, it's like, you know, I just hope there's no more pain. And I hope, you know, it's just questions you think, like the lyrics in there, like, you know, do you think about the time that you wasted, or do you think about the damage I caused? Do you think well of me? Do you think poor of me? Honestly, I don't care. I just hope that you are doing well and better. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry, you know.
yeah, and I mean, I hear that song, and I feel like you know it was one of those things where you know you may not have liked the outcome, um, and you know people grow apart for whatever reason, but like you mean it's like you felt bad that it happened, and you just hope that like the pain that they were feeling was gone, and that they moved on and they were happy with where things were now. Um, and yeah, I just think it's a great song. I hope everyone um goes and
Thank
listens.
you. That's the outlier on there for sure too, because that's the acoustic ballad on that record. Like, the rest are totally punk rock, all
Yeah,
of them. And then that one's like the one that was, you know, and I thought it fit on Everyone I Know Will Die as well, because first of all, it's what I was going through, which I always write pretty much chronologically, and then I release them in order for the most part, like in order of what I'm writing, so that you get the clear picture. There's no confusion. But you know, the whole concept of that record is just, we're not going to be here one day. And I thought it fit, you know, somebody could take it any other way, you know, of like if they lost their partner suddenly, like, you know, like, could that be a song from them to you, from you to them? I think it has multiple meanings for sure.
yeah. And talk about the title, because it's a little grim. You know, everyone I know will die. I mean, obviously that's the truth. We're all going to die one day.
I didn't do it for clickbait, just to let you know. I didn't do it just because I thought it was this loud title, like, oh, it's a punk rock record, so edgy. I did not do it for that reason. um, So I'll give this in the most condensed way possible. I was in and out of the hospital with my partner, April, because she was diagnosed suddenly with epilepsy. I was in the hospital with her. Basically, she would just have seizures, and then they wouldn't stop till we got to the hospital and they gave her Ativan. And it has to be an IV. I can't give her pills. Like, it had to be in the hospital. So, but we didn't understand what was happening. And she got diagnosed. She was seizure free for 6 months, and then after that, they switched medicine and she started having seizures once a month for like 5 months straight. Those 5 months is when this record was written. So the whole thing was pretty much just me having panic attacks, freaking out, like trying to figure out what I can do to be a good partner and caregiver. And I was in the hospital all the time. So like when we were there, it was always at like, 10 at night, depending on what day of the week. People were always dying around me. They were always understaffed. It was just a mess. So all these songs were like, half of them I wrote literally in notepads while running to try to not have panic attacks, to try to like get my mind off of it. And the other half were like in hospital rooms where I was just thinking about that. And I remembered that when I was young, that was the first thing I panicked about, because my grandfather died and I was like 15. And I didn't really understand the concept of it, which I should have at that age, I believe, but I didn't. And I was like, that was immediately the source of my anxiety and panic. It was the start of it. And it reminded me of that. And I was like, I'm just going to write a record about what I'm going through. And then when I listened to all the songs, like I kept seeing everybody, being sick in the hospital and no one really being able to help and no one really knowing, like, there's doctors, but we only know so much kind of thing. That was the same thing that was going on with April's situation, where she was having seizures once a month and they had no idea why. I was trying to do research and figure it out, but like, there's really, you have these questions of why is this happening? This is hell. How do I get out of this? I can't get out of this, but you also have to be strong for the other person because they're going through it, not you. And then it was like, all right, I need to write a record also. So all of the songs were written like that. Kevin Iserman co-produced the whole record. I basically sent him demos. He recorded a bunch of guitars, a bunch of drums, sent it back to me. And then when I wasn't like completely panicked sitting directly next to April, like to make sure nothing was happening, I was up here like trying to finish the record. And that's how we got the whole entire record done. And I eventually was like, to Kevin and April, I was like, I should just name this record Everyone I Know Will Die. And I was joking. And they were like, that is a fantastic name. And when people listen to it, they'll realize it's not like this grim message. It's like, everyone I know will die, so you better fucking live, And it's supposed to kick you in the ass. It's not supposed to be like, everyone I know will die. This is a sad subject. I mean, it's sad, but it's not supposed to be a, but when you're finished listening to it, I feel like there should be some sort of resolve and some self-reflection, and not just like I sat there just to feel sorry and sad.
Right. I agree. And self-reflecting is something I really thought about, when I listened to the record. Is April okay now?
She's been seizure-free for 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I sort of figured out when she was having the seizures was during a certain time period every month. So we were like, well, let's try to figure that out, and figured out that we think it's catamenial epilepsy, which is relating to the cycle. So we were like, well, let's just try different things. And eventually this medicine's been working, which is good. It kind of feels like a Band-Aid. It's a very good Band-Aid, but I think there's more to learn about it. And there's so many different types of epilepsy, and I never knew that either. There's 1 in 26 people in the world have epilepsy. Like, that's not a really low number. It's not high, but it's not like low.
Right. Yeah.
It was just a bunch of learning, yeah. But yeah, she's been good. She's doing her own thing. She has an EP out, and we're finishing her album this week, actually. And then she's releasing that this year too. So yeah, she's performing. I'm in her band. I'm performing. She's in my band. We have the same band. So it's been cool. A little nerve-wracking, but for the most part, it's been, very grateful that it's not so insane anymore.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, it's like you look over your shoulder every day to see if it's gonna come after you.
Yeah, and it made me think about my life as well. But like, she has them only between 9 and 10 p.m. at night. She had one in the morning between 9 and 10. So it's always between 9 and 10. So, right after the seizures, you're just worried all day, but especially worried between 9 and 10. And you don't really know what to do. If something happens, you're just like, okay, well, I'll do all the things you're supposed to do. Just put them on their side. Do not put anything in their mouth. Make sure that they're not on their back. and then after a minute she comes out of it, and then we got to rush to the hospital before she has another one because she keeps having them. That's the problem with hers. It's not just like she has a seizure and she's good. It's she'll keep having them until she has enough Ativan in her system. Like the worst one, she had 5
Wow.
in like 3 hours. And
That's
then
insane.
like literally rushing to that. Yeah, it was crazy. We're actually trying to make some type of art with it because we have a lot of footage about it. But that's more for her project. But she's been good, and I love writing music with her, and she's dope. And definitely check her out too.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when she joined the band a few years ago. I mean, I think I said this to you before. I felt like she almost was the missing piece
Yeah,
for you guys.
yeah. Turned out to be in my life as well, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, it's funny because last time we spoke, that was kind of like new. It wasn't for everyone to know. So yeah, it's funny what a couple years does.
Yeah, yeah. But like I said, I'm glad she's good now. Her music's been doing good. We've been having a good time, and yeah. But I'll tell you what, I'll never. I mean, that record is insane to think about how it was written because normally, I write almost all my records have either been drunk or not drunk, but drinking or smoking loose. I'm writing the record,
Mhm.
just having carefree, but also being introspective. And then Young and Quiet Neighborhood, most of it was sober because I was going through the divorce and I was like, I want to be clear, level headed. I don't want to do substances. And then Everyone I Know Will Die was completely sober because I couldn't risk being under the influence and have to drive her to the hospital.
Sure, of course, yeah.
So, I mean, like with weed, I started smoking when I was 25. I'm 30 now. I didn't smoke for a year plus, like maybe a year and 2 months now. And I basically didn't drink for like 8 months either. Like now I like randomly have a little sip or two, but
There you go.
but yeah, it's I've had to make sure that I was level headed, especially for those months, because you know, I I always try to make sure I'm safe with substances because I really feel like I have an addict mind where like, especially when things are going tough, like, dude, you know how easy it is to just
Spiral, yeah.
and I'm like, no, I'm not, I don't, I'm pretty proud of myself, honestly, with doing that because I always felt when I was a kid that I would like, I don't know, I was always worried about being abusing substances. I actually drew myself. They made us draw ourselves where we see ourselves in 20 years. And I drew myself with green hair and like this huge like nose the way the smokers get when they smoke like cigars.
Hmm.
And I was in front of like a liquor store and I was like breaking bottles and stuff. And it was in elementary school. They made me redraw it. Like my parents came in, they were like, we have a little bit of concerns. But I'm not that, so that's good.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, was that prevalent in your surroundings? I mean, not like immediate family, but like just the world that you grew up around?
My school was known for weed and heroin for sure, but I really started drinking at like 13. I kind of just snuck it. If you listen to the song Hydroplane, the whole
Yeah.
story is basically in there, but I snuck it from my house when I was like 13. And then I really like tobacco, smoking. And so I basically haven't lived sober since I was 13 years old. And then I had to during these like tough times. And then, so I know I'm such a sensitive like person that I really feel the effects. I also feel the effects when I'm coming off of, like drinking. Smoking doesn't do it as much. So yeah, it was definitely around. I don't think it influenced it that much though. I was much more introverted about it. I never did it with people. I didn't really care. It wasn't for that. I'm not trying to socialize and have a good time. I'm trying to just relax myself. I've always been trying to just relax myself. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Yeah, I know how you feel about trying to stay sober too. Like recently, my wife is pregnant and we're due in 5 weeks from today.
Yeah,
And
congrats.
yeah, thanks. It's funny because last time that you and I talked back in October of 2020, she was also pregnant. And we lost that one maybe a week or two later. And I almost told you about that.
You
like we
sort
were,
of did, you sort of did, but I remember we didn't talk about it on the thing. But yeah,
yeah, we were just gonna after the fact, and it was one of those. It was too early to like really I probably shouldn't talk about it because it's too early. But yeah, so we actually lost that one, and um, so yeah, so she's 5 weeks out. So I mean, like technically, I mean, she could go. You know, I mean, it would be still a little early, but um, it could happen. You never know. Or God forbid she has labor like pains or whatever, and whatever it might be.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of like on guard.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's like a PTSD thing with it. I get it, but you got to think good, dude. I mean, I have a good feeling about that for you. Hopefully,
yeah, well, we're at a place now where even if the baby came early, it would only be 5 weeks early. So I mean, she'd be viable. So
Yeah.
it's all
But
good.
it's crazy when you go through something like that. You take the precautions for the
Yeah,
next time, kind of thing.
yeah. We had 3 losses between our son and the one on the way. So it's been a interesting 2 years.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's much more common than I think people think. It's not really talked about that much.
and you're absolutely right. It's a very lonely experience too. And that comes from way back when like women were made to feel like ashamed because that's all they were in life. They were, um,
What you're supposed to be doing.
yeah, you're supposed to be, you know, birthing children. And if you couldn't, like, shame on you. I think it's getting better, but I mean, I think it's like 1 out of 4 women have a miscarriage or experience that type of scenario, and it's really a lonely experience, more so for the woman, like I said, but even for me. I mean, some of my best friends knew what we were going through, and through the losses, and then this child was actually conceived via IVF. Um, no one asked. They didn't ask like how we were doing, how we were feeling, like how things were going. And I don't know if it was just because they were worried or they were afraid to ask, or it's probably also the fact that everyone else has their own shit they're going through.
I
Um,
think they kind of just don't know what to say, man, because again, this is not the same thing, but like when I was, it was literally hell for 5 months with the seizures with April. And I mean, I have friends, family, and they're great and they're great support systems, but it felt so lonely too, where it's kind of like, oh, well, they'll figure it out. I'm like, no, they won't. Like, they're not. And, like, or like the things that they would say wouldn't really help anyway. And then it got to the point where it was just like, oh, this is just something that's happening every month now. So I guess we'll just not ask anymore. Or
right.
I don't know what it was, but I sympathize with that because, you know, the only people I could talk to was like more like on her side of the family.
Mm.
And you want to be strong and okay for them as well, like her mom. Like I felt so bad, like her mom was like tough basically to me, like seemingly fine, but then I find out later that like she like was having a really hard time with it. So she was trying to be like helpful for me, and she was great. She was one person that was like fantastic through the whole thing, but most people, they didn't even know what to say. They're kind of, oh yeah, I don't know how I would deal with that. All right, well, thanks, but maybe just like give me a call and we like vent for an hour. Like I might not even, like you might not even have to say anything. Like just there was one other friend that I talked to, Carlo, who was a co-writer of Colors. He had a uh, fiance who passed away a couple of years ago, and we kind of wrote Colors. Like some of his parts were totally about that for him, and he understood it because he was in the hospital. It was a mystery diagnosis where they didn't know what was wrong with her. And that was one person that I was like, oh, thank God, and we randomly, even for April, like when we find people that have epilepsy, like it's like, oh, finally we can talk to somebody who kind of goes through this. Like, did you ever find any people who, I don't mean like a support group or like, but kind of, like other couples that might have gone through it to try to kind of talk about?
Yeah, so I had a friend who had a friend that went through a lot of it. And then, but like talking to her was just that's really all I needed. Like she had never experienced it, but like just someone that like would call and check in and just say, "Hey, how are things going?" was enough for me. Like I just that's all I really like ever really wanted. I mean,
Yeah, to feel like you're cared about within the situation. That's exactly what I'm saying too. Like for me, it was more like I would get to desperation and then have to text somebody like, can I call you and like talk to you? It was never the other way of just like, yeah, I don't know. I've had the same, maybe people don't want to bring more negativity into their life. I don't know. Or I honestly think, now I'm thinking about it. I think, just a guess, but if people don't go through something so serious, they don't have the perspective on it, so they don't know what you might need.
Right.
Because that happened with me as well, where they don't get it. They just don't, they don't understand what you could possibly need in order to get help. I mean, I wrote songs pretty much and talked to like 3 different people in my life. That was pretty much what I did throughout it, but yeah.
Yeah, the feel sorry for myself part of me was like, oh, poor me, like no one else cares and they don't know. But the realistic part of me was like, you know what? I mean, this isn't uncommon. Everyone else has their own shit going on, whether it's, we're living in a world where we're in a pandemic, and I had, the friends I mentioned, like, the grandmothers have passed away and they were dealing with different losses. And so it just like, again, like the feel sorry for myself was like, what was me?
But
But
it's not even to feel sorry for yourself, man. Like, I personally think both of those parts are so important. If you skip that part and just go right to the, like I can like power through it, you're now suppressing and not even going through any of the emotions of it,
yeah,
Like I went through that for sure, where I was like, why is this happening to me, to her, to us? Like, did I deserve this from, whatever I've done in the past? Like, did I, like, did like all those types of questions, and you process those informations, the information and the sadness and whatever, and then you get on the other side, the realness side that you were saying, which is more like okay, you know what, like there's worse, which doesn't help the situation, but if you have the perspective and other people who are also going through something similar or worse, it makes you feel not as alone. And you realize that with everything, for some reason, the more time that passes, it heals.
yeah, you're right.
And
It's
when you're in that situation, though, you don't want to fucking hear that.
of course.
Just let some time pass. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just it'll get better.
yeah. Let me start counting.
It
1,
gets easier. Yeah.
2,
Yeah. It's one of those life's hard, dude. Life is, and
They don't teach you that.
they don't
They don't
teach you
teach
that.
you how hard it is.
And I sound like an old man saying like, because like, our parents before us always said like, you have it easy or you don't know what hard is or whatever it might be. I just feel like life today is a lot different for our generation than it was for them. Not taking any credit away from what they went through and what they dealt with, but it's just different. But I feel like this is just like the way life is now and technology and the news. It's just always something that's just like hitting you in the face all the time, and you never get a break.
There's different struggles now, but it's still struggles. You're
Yeah,
still human. You still have to go through the process of, from life to death, which is one whole thing. And then, like you said, the actual, uh, you know, uh, experience that you have, depending on the time period you're born, I still feel like it's still very, very difficult. It's hard to keep up with everybody, keep up with everything. And yeah, I feel the same way as you do. Like I literally feel like an old man. Like whenever, a lot of the interviews I've been having, we end up talking about social media and stuff, and it ends up being like me, like sounding like an old guy. It's like, I don't want to do it. And I can't believe that people don't know that this is fake and the algorithm and blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, it's silly, but that's also still a mental struggle, especially when it's your job, like,
yeah,
yeah, you're not out like, you can't compare it to a past generation. I really don't think you can. It doesn't matter who had it worse or who had it better. It's
it's
still the human
different.
condition. It's still the human condition, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not being drafted to go to war, thankfully, right? Not yet,
Right.
anyways. But like, so that's a great part of life, right? We don't have to worry about that. So it's just every generation is just different. It's just a different. I just feel like with the technology and the advancements in it, the small amount of time, let's say the past 10, 15 years, everything's changed so quickly. It's like hard to just keep up.
Yeah. And I
And
think
then
it's going faster and faster.
yeah. And then I looked at I'll look at my like average time on my phone every week. Every Sunday it gives me a little update. And it's like you spent 9 hours on Facebook this past week. And it's like, holy shit. Like, what if I spent those 9 hours like working out or anything else?
Yep.
How what better? How would my life be better? And it's like,
Do you feel like you're on it because you have to be with like your job and your career? Because when it's somebody talking about it just like they go on, but like they're not, a creative or somebody who has to like, okay, like for example, if people don't know this, just quick update, like as an artist, if I post something on Instagram, it does better with the algorithm with hashtags. It does better depending on what time I post, whatever. So I need to know those things. I already don't want to know those things, have to know those things. Okay. So I'm not being a musician. I'm now being a marketer, right?
right.
You have to choose where you're marketing it to, how much money you can spend, what age group, what interest they have, whatever. Then on top of that, it does better with the algorithm if you interact with other profiles. It does better with the algorithm if you comment back on everybody. So now I need to be on there because I need to comment back. I kind of just comment with a heart and a whatever, but like, and I appreciate my fans. I love my fans. I talk to them a lot, typically not on social media, but for the algorithm, I have to do that. So I end up being on there way more than I would like to be. But I try to go on only to post and then to respond to comments, and then I get off. But again, it does better for the algorithm if I'm on there more.
Mhm.
So it's like tough. I don't understand people who don't need to be on there, why they go on there. Is it because they feel like they're like left? Like, do they not have enough going on in their physical world that they feel like they're left out and need to go in the digital world and kind of keep up? Like, that's the part I would love to know, because if I didn't need to be on there, and I always say this, but I don't know if it's true, if I didn't need to be on there for my career, I don't think I'd be on it. Like, I hate TikTok. I'm never on TikTok. I cannot stand it. It's fast paced. It makes you watch the whole video because they say something in the beginning that makes you watch to the end. It's all mind games, and it makes your like ADD go way worse. And then they advertise for ADD for medicine, and then you have to self-diagnose yourself saying you have ADD, and now you're taking medicine that a doctor didn't even tell you that you have it. Like, there's so many problems with this for me.
Yeah.
It's like I don't understand why the average person, not an average is not bad, but the average person, why they would choose to be on these socials. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm probably guilty of both. And I mean, for my job, yeah, kind of not as much as it was for like when I was in radio, because back then when I was in advertising and things like that, like I was constantly like, who's doing what, where are the events at, who needs to advertise, things like
Right.
that. But also, I mean, I'm still like in a sales type of role at Axelrad, so it's still kind of like, hey, do you need, marketing and t-shirts and or branding, and where you can have a retail store in your store, and how can I make you money based off what I sell you. But definitely for promoting this platform and the Popko Project, and
But you ever go on, do that and get off, or do
I
you,
definitely do both. I
when are you
definitely,
on? When are you on? Are you on a couch kind of just like scrolling?
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, I do that every now and then too. And then I literally get so angry at myself about 3 minutes after that, where I'm like I'll be talking with April or whatever in the living room, and then we'll take a break from recording, go down in the living room, and then next thing you know, I'm just on my phone. I'm like, why am I on my phone? Like, I could be doing something else, and I'll put it down, and then we'll both like consciously try to do that. But it is that addicting. It literally feels like I'm just carrying around a drug in my pocket. And but what's funny is all the things I said to you are true. I don't really want to be on it. So why is it that my brain wants to keep going on it? Like, there's no way that is healthy.
no, that's the fear of missing out too. I think you just, who's doing what, like are they
It's
doing
always
something
constantly new though, too, dude. Like, I can go on and it's a brand new thing. It's not like you go on, it's the exact same thing again.
right?
It's like, so it's just, yeah, I'm honestly hoping for more like regulation. I think it, like you said, it moves so fast. There was like no regulation, but I will say every single person I talk to about it, they're not like, I haven't talked to one person that's been like, I love it.
Yeah,
I never talked to one person like, I love being on it. I really love this platform. Like they might like certain people they follow, but they will always say the same thing you just said. They're like, I really don't like how much I'm on it.
Yep.
And it's like, all right, well, we're kind of losing the self-control here. Like, dude, are you a little scared about that? Or
Yeah, I don't know. I hope it all goes away. Just one day, just stops existing. That will never happen because there's too much money involved.
no, it could. It could totally crash where like servers go down and all the memory goes away. You know, I forget there's something that happened like that in history. It was like apparently the biggest, I wish I knew it. I don't know the name of it, but there was apparently like this huge, massive library and it got wiped because like the same exact thing that we're doing. It's like too much information and eventually gets wiped and you lose this whole, you know, like in history, you lose this whole part of history because it was all digital and they don't have anything from it. So it's like the theory that that will happen again. It's a very, I have to, I forget what it's called. I'll have to email you it after I,
Okay.
yeah.
Or text me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll send it to you on Facebook so I can get you back on there.
Yeah. Thanks. Just what I need.
I can't stand that when people message me on social media. I'm like, damn it, I'm back on here now.
Would you consider yourself emo at all?
Um, people categorize me in that. My music could fit that. I think it's very hard to put a label on me as a person or the music. I'm something. I'm different. I don't know if it's emo, but it's very hard to fit into a specific lane, which has been a problem for me in my career, honestly, because I have to like try to do that. And it's very important to do that. But I mean, I was never like, I didn't put like eyeliner on and go to school like that when I was young or anything. I enjoy doing that now for shows and random events and whatever. Uh, but I also went through the same type of like, you know, like I loved screamo music when I was younger. Like what considers emo, you know?
It's that emotional, type of
Well, if it's emotional, then yes, I'm 100%.
I just talked to Scooter Award from Cold, and he called himself emo just because like he's emotional. And I mean, I don't think his music at all from Cold is emo, but just the fact that he's an emotional individual, he in a text message he called himself emo.
No, I'm an empath, which also makes you very emotional.
Mhm.
But emo to me is more of like somebody who I always viewed it as somebody who is emotional, but like beyond control. Like you don't have the tools yet. I think you're supposed to like kind of grow out of emo. Emo is like when you're young and in your teens and you're enraged and you don't know how to process your emotions yet and you're just like lashing out and you're hurting yourself and like those are things I've done when I was younger, but now I'm not emo anymore. I used to be emo, but I've grown to try to be a more balanced person emotionally.
Your buddy Joe Cavison would say otherwise.
He thinks I'm emo, huh?
Well, no, he would tell you that emo never dies. You don't grow out of being emo. I mean, he's a mid 30-year-old father hosting emo nights. Well, very successful.
It's under there, It's like if I ran track and field in high school, but I don't run anymore, like I'm still that kid, but like I'm not anymore, like I don't think so. I think emo is supposed to be a teenage phase, I will say. And you can like it afterwards. I love it.
I do too.
But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting, that's the problem with categories. And I would like to talk about this in a serious manner. And I mean, we are, but that's the same problem for me with, like I released Colors, it was released in June, which is Pride Month. And I had so many people like asking me like, oh, are you a part of the community? Are you, like, what are you? And it's just all so like new to me. And I was like, why are we trying to put me in a category? Like, I don't necessarily like taking a human made word and then shoving someone into that box, whether it's for that, whether it's emo, whatever it is. I just don't really necessarily like trying to categorize people. I think sometimes people like that to feel like they're not alone and have a community of people that are like them. But for me, I never really liked that. So Yeah, I don't know why I brought that up. I believe it was just because of the emo thing, and I was like, emo is just a made up word.
No, I saw that question someone asked you because you were doing the release for the song, and I saw
Yeah.
someone ask you that. Um, and yeah, I mean, it is interesting that someone would just ask you that based on, you know, a song being called Colors. And I don't know the history of the song or the meaning behind it. I don't know if you ever like kind of portrayed that to be that type of song, but
Um, the song wasn't written for that, but what I've been going through recently, personally, and with identity, I wanted to release it and then make the artwork about that, like the picture, the image is definitely that. And I wanted to make the message more so about that. But
okay.
it wasn't like that back when I wrote it. I wasn't this open and free of a person back when I wrote that. I might have been that person, but this is, I feel a little bit more different. But yeah, I just felt like it was strange. Like it's just again, I don't like I don't want to offend anybody either. That's the other problem. Like the way I feel about it, I don't want it to offend somebody.
Sure.
Because I don't have the same struggles that other people have. You know, somebody who might have came out when they were younger, somebody who is a boy going to a girl, somebody who is a girl going to a boy, somebody who is a lesbian, somebody who is bi. They're all completely different experiences depending on what age, depending on you know, how open you are about it, how honest you are with yourself about it. But I think it's something very important to talk about so that somebody can kind of figure it out on their own. And if you want to eventually tell people, that's fine. But I don't like the culture of just feeling like you're able to ask somebody that. Like it's such a personal question and it's such a, and maybe the person you're asking doesn't know yet.
Sure.
That's the thing that I'm like, or and also I think that it's very fluid. I think it fluctuates. Maybe today is this answer, but maybe in 2 weeks it's this answer. So yeah, it's a difficult one for me, but I just thought it was very strange that it's like so acceptable to just kind of like ask. And I mean, I don't think they meant anything bad. I mean, they're a fan of mine, obviously.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's like, but that's why I just kind of was like, yeah, somewhere under the umbrella.
So
I don't know.
I'm, I'm like, well, what is he? What is
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, hey, if it feeds the mystery and it makes people listen to music, whatever, but that's not the purpose.
right?
I will say this is very organically me. And I talk to April about it a lot. I mean, like she's like the only person that really has been helping me navigate it. And I'm really appreciative of that. Yeah. And it's something that I've always thought about and questioned and toyed with throughout my life. And then kind of like there were certain years where I didn't really think about it, and there's other years that I more so thought about it. And so it's been nice to have a partner who kind of understands it again, because again, it's two different experiences, completely different experiences. So, but it's cool to be able to talk to somebody about it and kind of let me form my own thoughts on it as the time passes. That's it.
Understood.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, you know, you have footage of her going through her struggles, and that kind of reminded me of the fact that did you just put out some kind of like documentary or video documentation on your own about something?
Yes, I released a documentary about basically the remaking of Colors.
Okay.
So it's 8 minutes, it's not long. I have basically 8 minutes of footage of me explaining why I wanted to remake it, a little bit about my identity experience, but not too much about it, but enough. And then it shows kind of like me tracking vocals, me doing guitars, me doing some drums, and kind of just showing the process, and also like a day in the life of me and April here, what it takes to be and not older, but we're not kids anymore. Like we have a dog, so like you have to pack all the stuff for the dog. You got to go to the studio, and then you go there, you do your thing, you come back. And there's some footage of me as like a kid in there, so it's a cool little documentary. I really enjoyed making it, and Johnny did a great job filming it and editing it as well. So that's out if anybody wants to watch that.
I'm guessing social media, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's just on YouTube.
Cool.
But if you search Kulick Colors Alternative, it comes up.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I saw it. I didn't have a chance to watch it, but I always I like those. I like when the artist talks about who they are and why they wrote what they wrote and what the song might be about. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about the songs that way because they want to be able to leave it open-ended for whoever hears it and apply it to their lives how they see fit. But I like knowing what the songs are about. So that's
Well, I think people don't like talking about it because I think even for the artist, the meaning changes sometimes, like that song's changed for me multiple times. I know exactly where, like when we wrote Colors, I remember I wrote the verses pretty much myself and I was absolutely hating what I was doing. And I was like, I'm just trying to make music, but these are the only songs that RCA likes. So I need to do this and I need to work with these people. And the people I worked with were great, but I missed producing music. So like all the verses were totally that. And then the chorus I co-wrote pretty much with Carlo and Dave Katz. And it was much more of a, we're going to make this chorus something that is very universal that everybody would understand. And we were kind of like trying to make up, well, why can't we make the chorus something about like, when other people don't get you, I get you. That's pretty much it. And so I was kind of writing that for myself of like, I get you, like my inner child still hears you and understands it. But, a lot of people don't like saying their origins because someone who has a different meaning to that song might not be like, oh, well, to that artist, that's not what it means. But I will say throughout the years, it has completely changed and you can interpret it differently depending on where you're at in your life, which is so fucking cool about music. I love that about music.
That's one of my favorite things too.
Yeah.
I don't write music. I don't create music. But I am very drawn to other people's music.
It depends what you're going through in life too. Like I've been obsessed with listening to Tom Petty lately. Like love Tom Petty. It's summertime. I mean, I've been listening to him for a long time, my whole life, but he's like my favorite artist. But especially recently, like if I'm trying to relax, I'm just shuffling Tom Petty and putting him on in the background. Like, and 16-year-old me would be like, fuck that. You're putting on, you're putting on a Day to Remember and you're driving 80 miles an hour with your, your sub on and you're blasting it through the town. And, like it was much different depending on where you're at, even those songs, like, going from being in a relationship for 10 years, 11 years with somebody, and then being with somebody else and now listening to those songs again, completely different meanings, same exact songs, but you hear new things in there because your life changed.
Yeah.
So it's cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and you said you were signed to RCA Records. That had to be pretty wild, to a degree.
It was unique. Okay. I don't feel much of a difference. Like my transition from going from RCA to signing with Enci, my manager's label, I kept still just doing exactly what I do. I loved working with Joe Arcatelli, who was at RCA. I miss working with him. He's not with them anymore. I'm trying to work with him more still. But yeah, when I was signed to RCA, I pretty much had the Hydroplane EP come out. I got the Sleeping with Sirens tour, which I believe was still from my manager, knowing the manager of Sleeping with Sirens. So that still wasn't really affiliated with RCA. And then I got the Andy Black tour, and I'm not sure why I got that tour. I'm not sure who. I think my booking agent got that one, but I'm not sure what the reason was for that. But it was cool to have the big name behind you, and you definitely feel validated. But what I will say to any artist that's trying to get signed or feel like that's the answer is it totally is not, because nothing really changes unless you're popping off already without them. Because if you don't, you're just on a huge roster of artists and you're at the bottom because you just got signed and no one's really paying attention and your funding is limited. So the only thing that really matters for an artist career to pop off is just for it to connect with people and then marketing money. That's it. And you got to be able to play live, but that's even becoming less and less because, you can just, for some reason, people will go see DJs live. They're like cool
Yeah.
with it, so, but yeah, it was a very interesting experience there. And I really miss producing my own music, but at their level, they didn't want somebody who was 27 years old producing their first album ever, basically on RCA. And they had people at their dispense to produce you and wanted to work with you because you were signed to RCA. So I found a lot of people were working with me just because of that title. I found once I left there, okay, here's the people who actually believe in me and like me, and here's the people who just wanted to be in the industry and thought that I would be, a good way to open their door. Like, here you go, come on in. But
Right.
yeah, I'm not bitter about it at all. I mean, it's something that my future children will know, and it's I've had crazy experiences, but again, I've had crazy experiences after RCA as well. I got the Spill Canvas tour, which was fantastic. I released an album, and I'm still doing it, and it feels so distant now. Like, the time just passes so fast.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, like, these are all my albums, like, on the back, like, there's so many of them now. It's like there used to just be Hydroplane when I started, so it's crazy.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier when we first started too that you're working on producing other people's music.
Hmm.
What's that been like?
That honestly has been so fun. And I don't know if it's because I couldn't really produce too much of Everyone I Know Will Die as much as I wanted to because of everything happening with April's health, but I was able to still produce other people because it's kind of what I do on the side, but it's becoming more of a main thing. I love making people's vision come to life and them trusting me to do that. People basically come here. April's like the psychologist and therapist and gets what we need to get out of them. I start making something, then she produces a little bit. I switch with her. We get the lyrics down. We record. We basically do a song in 2 days, and people will fly from here. Like, we have people come from LA, we have people drive from New York, and I'm in Central PA. So, but yeah, I love producing other people's music, and it makes me not feel so pressured to be like, oh, does this sound like a Kulick song? Like, it's like, this is their song, so it's like, let me just try to tap into your vision. It makes making my record better. Like, I'm working on something new now. Like, it makes it better, so much better. And yeah, if there's other musicians and artists who want to, work with us, we're totally down to do that. And it's been a blast. Like, I've really learned to love it again.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've been working on April's record a lot. Like, she was the first person who really, like, took a chance on me being a real producer of hers. Like, once I released Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood, and then once I started working with her, we're like, we can totally do this for other people. So we recorded a bunch of people. We recorded this girl named Jackie June, recorded Terrell and Rye. We're recording this kid named Nathan Martinez, who's coming here next month. And there's a bunch of other people that are supposed to be coming. I'm also recording a band called Awakening Autumn. They're like these young kids from Oregon, and they just send me stems, and then I produce more stuff and I mix and master it. And they're like in love with that process. So there's so many different ways to do it, but it's all surrounded by music, and I'm trying to do that as much as I can, so I don't have to work at like Domino's Pizza or some shit.
Yeah, don't do that.
Again, yeah, no, I know, but yeah, it's very interesting, the life, like being a 30-year-old freelancer, not having the stable income, but like, people from the outside, like, oh, you have this dream life, you always get to work on music and whatever. I'm like, you only see that part, and that's fine, but like, there's totally way more to it than that. And there's a grind, there's a hustle, and then there's also the challenge of trying to be a balanced human being and take breaks.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah, because you're very active on social media, even though you hate it to an extent. I mean, you're always kind of allowing others and fans of yours to see into your life, and that has to be a little. I don't want to say exhausting, but maybe that's the right word.
I don't find that part exhausting. Like,
Really?
I'm on my phone to post 20 minutes max. Like, I already have the idea that, like, I'm trying to do as much as I can not on my phone, on socials, not on my phone, but not on my phone, but not on socials. Use the Notepad app to make the caption. That way I'm not on there. I get all the links in a Notepad app, so that way I don't need to, mess around with that. I try to edit it all like basically either not on social media, or I'll edit and save it as drafts so that I don't need to do it. And I like sharing parts of my life because I really think that is what made me interested in the artist that I like. To see that look behind, oh, how is he doing it? The main reason I actually started doing the social media thing when I was younger was I was so mad at how fake everything was. And I was like, I'm going to show everybody like how much of a magic trick this is. Like, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all lighting. It's all marketing. It's all, it's all, which is fine. I accept that's what it is now. But as a kid, I was so mad about that. And I was like, if I can make someone learn that younger, it will make them more successful. So here's what I do every day. Here's what I'm working on. Ask me whatever you want. I'm rarely really on my phone to answer messages, but I go on once a day just to answer messages, once a day to post. So it seems like I'm active. Like you said, you'll see something from me every day, pretty much on weekdays. And, I try to share a balance of here's me working and then here's me in my personal life. So if someone, it's mostly for kids, if a kid is watching on social media what I'm doing, they'll see someone who's a balanced person, someone who has gratitude and love, and a love for what he does. I think that's important. I think that's so much better than just sharing the amazing parts. Like, if I only showed you when I'm playing shows and have the tours, and can't tell you how many musicians I talk to that are like, oh, this show freaking sucked and blah, blah. And then they post like, oh, what an amazing time. I mean, I'm guilty of it too sometimes, but it's like, nah, don't believe everything that you see. Like, just kind of focus on yourself. And if people admire you, that's great. That means you're on to something. So just keep being more like you. Don't try to be what you think is going to make you popular. Because I'm telling you, you're going to be miserable, even if it does.
Right. And one last thing I wanted to talk to you about. You mentioned you like to produce other people's albums because you don't have to worry about it sounding like a Kulick song. And I feel like a lot of your music, and I love every single song you've put out, but it has a Kulick sound to it, and it almost has like a recipe. Is there a reason behind that? Do you foresee yourself maybe taking some risks and making, some new sounds, or are you happy with where, the songwriting has been and how people have received it, and you're just going to kind of keep doing what you've been doing?
I think every song that I've released, an album, has sounded different. Like, this last record is totally just pop punk, and people love that sound. And I always have this debate in my head of like, do I just make another pop punk record? People love that. Probably get me better chances of getting on tours. Like, that way you're more in the lane, that kind of thing. And then the other half of me is like, I just want to make whatever it is. I want to sit down, and whatever I make, if it's a 6-minute song that's like just acoustic, I want to do that. If it's, and the battle's always, is it marketable? Will my fans still like this? If someone who knows Ghost Colors and Hole in My Head, will they like Don't Think About Me? Like that's always a really big challenge for me. But I will say, I do see more twists and turns coming up. I have a folder of songs I'm working on for a new album, and they're not like anything that I put out under Kulick. Now, Jacob Kulick, before I was signed to RCA, I'm pretty much taking those and I'm going to put those on steroids, and then there's some new ones. I've been listening to a lot of new music. Like, I love Manchester Orchestra's Black Mile to the Surface. Love that record. Like, obsessed with that record at the moment. I'm really liking the acoustic guitar. I'm really loving piano. It's not all rock, but there's parts of it. It's very, but to go back to like basically the origin of the question, I do have a formula. I do have a recipe. And if that's what you're looking for in a Kulick song, it'll always be in that. I love pop songs. I love hooks. I love repetitiveness. That's always there. That's definitely always there. The production always changes, but the main message of the song being transparent and trying to make something really, really catchy, that will still be there for sure.
Very cool. And it's June right now. So, I mean, what's in store for Kulick the rest of the year? Any surprises popping up?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one that I'm very excited about that I have to work on. Yeah, it's hopefully going to come out at the end of the summer, but I still have to finish recording it. And it's a feature. And I think it's somebody that people who have seen me live before would be stoked to see that they're on it.
Okay.
So we'll see that. And then I'm working on the album. Hopefully we'll be finished, December and release sometime early next year. But I mean, I'm trying to not rush it. There's no rush anymore. I love doing this, and I want to really indulge. The last record I didn't get to indulge with everything going on, with April's health. I didn't get to like just sit in here and like love what I was doing. I was in a, so, and even Young in a Quiet Neighborhood, I was completely in a panic. This is the first time I really feel like I might be able to actually completely indulge in what I want to do. So
That's interesting. And I'm sure there's, aspects of those albums that like, what you're going through, like played such an important part in those songs and made them so great. But I'm interested and I'm excited to hear, the next batch of songs in your new headspace. And, hopefully April's health continues to stay positive. And I'm excited for you.
yeah, it's gonna be something cool, man, because it's something that I talk to a lot about with April too. Like, my main goal is there's two: to always be transparent and to connect with my inner child. And, like being Jacob, like not Kulick, but being Jacob, there's a different energy that I never got to show yet. And that's what I'm trying to show on the next album that I'm putting out. It's even in the next single that I'm going to put out with the feature. It's a song that I wrote back in 2014, and I sent it to them, and he was like, yeah, let's do that one. So he loved it. And that's when I was like, all right, I'd love to like continue going that way. So I just wanted to feel, like I'm still going through very personal things that I need to write about. And those songs also have content that are very personal that I still relate to. So it'll still be there, and it'll still feel like, dude, these ones make me, just, yeah, I'm very excited and nervous to see the reception of it, and I try to focus just on that and on the fans that love my music and will listen to it no matter what, and not will it do well on the algorithm and playlisting. That's the part that I'm trying to not really think about, especially now. I'm like, I'm no. Let's just make a good freaking record and see what goes.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm glad you are, man. You've always been a fan. I really appreciate
Dude, I think you may have been my first interview I ever had.
Yeah, I was, because I was what was that station? It was the purple station.
92.1. It was Alt 92.1 was the name of the station. I remember I had a local radio show. It was every Saturday. And I know that the program director wanted to kind of fit you in to the station, but like you were still new, I guess. And like, I don't know, you were close enough to our area where we could use that as an angle to like play your music. Unfortunately, it was, a Saturday night at 9:00, but it gave you a space there. And he kind of just brought you in. I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. But
No one knows.
it was so wild. I still have it actually.
Dude, you got to send that to me. I would be curious to see what my interview answers are. I'd probably sound like a freaking dipstick.
I'll send you a SoundCloud link.
Okay.
That's what I have it on. I don't know I'm sure you can listen to it even if you don't have.
Yeah, you can, but I have it.
Okay, so perfect. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I remember because you were so nervous.
Dude, you have no idea.
Nervous. And I'm like, dude, I'm nobody. So I hope he's not nervous because it's me. Like, I'm hoping it's just because it's his first interview because
Well, I mean, here's the thing, it's my first interview ever. I mean, at the time, like I had no business even being on the radio. I have an artist coming in. I did the research and, your background, you're a producer and this, that, the other thing, and you're on RCA Records. So I'm like, okay, this is a lot. This is,
right.
but
Right. Well, we did it. Look at us. There it is, 2022.
yep. 4 years later. I think it was 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018.
Yeah. I'll make sure I do send this to you. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, always have me back. I would love to always talk about the music and the record and your life and my life. I appreciate these kind of conversations. They're so much better than the very dry.
Well, that's exactly the why I wanted to continue doing it, just because, like, you have a radio interview, you can do those. It's the 2 minute, where are you from, what's your name, how'd you get your name, you have a show coming up, you have a CD coming out, blah blah blah. But we never get to have those conversations like we're having right now about what kind of headspace you were in when your partner April was going through an unknown medical scenario, or like anything like that. You don't get those interviews and those questions on a radio interview. So I'm a curious person. I like talking to people, and I'm happy that you gave me your time tonight.
Yeah, no problem, man. Like I said, always have me back and keep doing it because I really think people appreciate, it'll reach the people who want to do the deep dive.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it definitely does.
But yeah, check out Kulick's album, currently out. Everyone I Know Will Die. He just released a remake of the song Colors from Yelling in a Quiet Neighborhood. All of his music is great. I encourage you to go stream it. It's on every streaming platform out there, and check him out on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But Kulick, thank you again for your time. It's always been a pleasure talking to you, and you'll always be my first.
Great ending. All right, see you, buddy.
All right, take care, man. Thanks.
Yeah.